for you to understand that besides my not being a member of parliament, I will always fight and advocate for good governance and also fight against corruption. I think corruption has become very sophisticated to a point where lawyers, some of them have also become corrupt. Whilst the law is very clear and lawyers, you expect them to guide you to a position which is legally correct. They guide you to a position which is legally unlawful, and they make their money, and you end up going to jail. Let me first of all say to you that I'm not fighting my uncle Didymus and Mutasa. I'm targeting the criminals around him who I know. At that age, I don't think he would do anything unlawful, but they have put it in such a way that they gain and he suffers. So the good thing about documentation is to get to the people who put it together. Members of the public, I think it is important to know that I am a shareholder and director in Mungwe Investments Limited. I'll show you the Sierra 14 and all that. This company owns certain pieces of land, namely Mungwe, Sapi, Falls, Utandi Health, under deed of transfer number 7972/2008. Deed of grant number 600/2008 and deed of grant number 8874/2008. These three properties are the company's sole assets, and their disposal or elimination must be approved by the company's board of directors. It has come to my attention as a shareholder and director of the company that there is development underway at the above-mentioned company properties by an entity called Borobondo Private Limited. Borobondo has put up adverts inviting members of the public to purchase stands from there. Let me warn all those who have purchased stands that this is illegal. Due process was not followed, and I would urge the public not to fall for this, to first of all recover the money that they've put in an investment until this matter is concluded. It is before the courts as we speak. So go and ask for your monies, put them in an investment, let it generate some money. If this is to then become what is supposed to be following, what is proper, then you can invest. For now, I want to help you. That's why I know with your hard-earned savings, you will keep on losing money. So I wish to advise members of the public that there is neither been a company's shareholders nor a director's resolution authorizing the development or the sale of the stands to the public. In the absence of such approval, it is my reasonable suspicion and conclusion that the development is a fraud, a real fraud. Like I've said to you before, they've become masters of duping people, and while there are wolves in sheepskin. To this end, I have instituted legal proceedings under HCHC 42/24, that's the High Court number, against the said Borobondo and all those working in cahoots with it. Further, I shall approach law enforcement agents to investigate the possible criminal conduct. In fact, I've already reported the matter to the Anti-Corruption Commission. We've given them the evidence, so the investigations are underway. Like I've said, members of the public are therefore warned against buying property from them until this matter is resolved. What I would like to say is that should members of the public proceed to purchase the stands, none of its shareholders and directors shall be held liable. There are documents which I'll share with you here, which are critical. My lawyers, Masia and Sheshe, are representing me in this matter. I've got the CR 14 here, 2007. In fact, the company number of the company is 17986/2007, Companies Act, which clearly has me as a director. So the directors who were appointed on the 28th of August 2007 were Didymus, Noah, Edwin, Mutasa, Martin, Mutasa, Temba, Mliswa, and in terms of nature of change, they still remain as directors. There was Mliswa who resigned on the 20th 02/2017. As you can see, and I'll expose this with the new CR 14 that they have, there are 2 directors. So I'm not there. So you then move to the one that they bought, which is 17986/2007. This was done by Jess SM Consulting, and this one was done by Focus Business Services in terms of who dealt with these issues in terms of the company. So there's, in terms of CR 14, this is the latest that they have in terms of Mungwe investments. So there's still Didymus and Mutasa, 20 August 2007, Martin Mutasa, 20 August 2007, and on Temba Mliswa, they then say, I resigned on the 9th of February 2021. I never wrote a letter resigning. I've asked their lawyers to show me a letter at which I resigned. I never resigned. So this is the first point of call that we have to look at. When did I resign? What were my reasons for resigning and so forth? They went on to come up with resolutions now after the amendments of that. But we have the shareholders agreement, which I'll give you a share of. There were 4 shareholders in this. The first one was Noah, Didymus Mutasa, Mebo Dete, there was Temba Peter Mliswa, and there was Martin Mutasa. And we all signed all these shareholders agreement. So one, we were directors and shareholders. And it stipulated the number of shares that each one of us had. I had 10%, maybe 10%, Martin had 10% in this. We were the directors. The agreement in terms of the shareholders agreement is also very clear in terms of how business will be conducted. So if you go to the meetings, 2.4 meetings of the board, So okay, I'm no longer a director according to the CR 14, but I remain a shareholder. So meeting of the board, it was very clear that we would become board members unless you have a proxy that you put. Is that a quorum required for the transaction of any business at any meeting of the board shall be 3 directors. So they came up with the resolution of getting to a partnership with Borobondo, and there were only 2 directors. So this again talks about the lawyers, lawmen chambers, MC law firm, which is really a bunch of criminals as lawyers. I'm equally writing to the law society. Lawyers, some of them have become dangerous. And we need to, and that's the reason why I called for this conference, press conference, to alert the people that don't trust lawyers. Some of them, there's no business in town. So they've decided, if you're a company, to now be a shareholder in that company, to now run the company through the legal work. By the time they give you the invoice for the work that they've done, it's actually more than, you end up being a minority shareholder and so forth. So MNC law firm is one of them. Lawman Chambers is one of them. I am prepared to face a lawsuit anytime because I have it on good authority that they've been ill-advised their client because they are interested parties. This is, you know, it's not a secret that I have 20 children. If by Thursday we confirm the DNA of Susan's baby, I will have 20. This is an investment for my children. I've never been a minister, a government official where I can get an opportunity to make money. This is an investment for my children. This is an investment for my children. We fast forward to this. They then wrote to my lawyers, offering me $1 million, the 10%. And I said, no, the value of that land was more than $1 million. And if I was not a shareholder and a director, why did you offer me $1 million? And I'll show you that they offered me $1 million, and I turned it down because that was not the value of that land. The value of the land was, at least I would have been happy if they'd given me 1.5 million. So this was the letter that they had written on the 2nd of November 2023. And of course they coiled it in such a way that, you know, like they were saying to you, this is how the letter goes. We refer to the above matter of correspondence there on a roundtable meeting of the 26th of October 2023. We have now taken instructions from our client who strongly objects to your claim. However, in the interest of amicable settlements, we are instructed to propose a compromise figure as a buyout. So look at the way they call it. Object to your claim. So if you object to my claim, why are you offering me $1 million? So they come up with these words so that they're seen to be doing right. But at the end of the day, they still write what they're offering you. Against this background, on a purely without prejudice basis, we are instructed to propose and do hereby a buyout of yours in inverted comma claimed 10% shareholding in the company for a compromise sum of $1 million. I mean, are they so generous? I mean, there are so many hospitals which need help. Why did they donate this to their hospital? Why are they giving it to me? So how can you be generous to offer me 10%, $1 million for 10%, but you still say all this? So I would want to understand that. So we have that letter again, which talks about that. The governance of the company was never done properly. I wrote pushing for a meeting for us to have this. I saw them continuing to advertise, and I said, listen, I am more than willing to walk out if we agree on the sum that I need. I went on to also buy another 10% shareholding from Mutasa, who I'd loaned money to, and his security were the 10%. So I'm actually a 20% shareholder. That's subject to them approaching the course that they need to. One of the shareholders who they were fighting against went to the High Court and was given the 10%. Same agreement, they were given the 10%. So a precedent has already been set. Unfortunately, she had to fight in the courts when she did not have to. So the courts ruled that give 10% of the land or the value. They settled that. It's the same agreement, the only difference is the names. So then, how then do you say I'm not a shareholder when this one was paid and they've got a court order? So these are the issues which I thought I would talk about to those who are dealing with Borobo. Now they can write as many statements and so forth. I've asked them to, if they were here, they must ask questions. They are lawyers. If they want to cover their company and their reputation, MC Law Firm and Borobondo, where are they to respond to these letters? Like I've said, at the end of the day, I don't want a distortion. Some of the family members have been calling me, we've gotten Sekuru, Didymus arrested. I said, I haven't. I'm targeting the criminals around him. I've reported to Zach. If he's invited by Zach, he'll be told who cooked these papers. That's all we want. We need to get to the bottom of it. So I would never fight my uncle or get him arrested, but he knows the people who he was instructing or who were instructing him to come up with this. This is the investment for my children. I have no other job, and I'll never be given any other job. I'm now a village head, and we're only paid $63 a month. How would I look after 20 children? So this was an investment for my children, and they must enjoy their father's hard work. And we must promote people who invest wisely like this for their children, where there's no corruption involved. We actually came up with this idea ourselves. We paid for this. We equally believed our uncle was supposed to be empowered. We didn't want him to be involved in corrupt issues. We gave him 70%, rightfully so. And we don't regret that. But we have all the receipts for the payments, for everything. But we said, we don't want you to be like other politicians when they are no longer politicians, they suffer. You have done well, you've been a good uncle, we are giving you 70%. How many nephews can do that? And we retain only 30%. It was a good gesture, but the way it's turning out to be is pretty clear that my uncle is getting old, by the way. And in getting old, they're taking advantage of him in the process and so forth. So we have to protect him. Because I now don't know what else they've done, what else they're going to take away from him and so forth. So it was really in the interest of the people who are investing in Borobondo, and again, in the interest of my uncle Didymus Mutasa, that he has people around him who have pushed him this far. He's always been an upright man. We know that he's one of the few people who left government without a scandal of corruption and so forth. And we must protect his integrity and dignity. So I wouldn't want people to say, ndini mzukuru, kana ndaona kuti sekuru wanga ndiwene matsotsi, ndini ndinopindia. Kuti wana hawasi right. And we have done our investigations. We know all these companies, JSM, who then doctored all these papers to remove me as a director, to say I'd resigned. Where are the papers saying that I resigned? I'm still a shareholder. I have to be part. If there's a meeting which was ever called, I have no letter and notice giving me notification of a meeting, just like any other director of any company. There should be days, at least 10 days, which you are advised of a meeting, and the agenda is also there and so forth. So that was not done. So we are really dealing with criminals in the MC law firm, Lawman's law firm, and Borobondo. They've become a cartel. They are not good lawyers, so they'll always find ways of making money outside their real profession at the end of the day. I would want to know, in terms of their real profession, how much money do they generate at the end of the year. They saw this as an easy way of making money, took advantage of an old man who has served this country and came up with these papers. We're going to fight this to the last, and then the truth will come out. And those who have been part of this, the law will take its course. The law will take its course, because we have to protect the citizens. And like I've said, be very careful of some of these law firms. Be very careful of them. They've become criminals themselves, yet they must be protecting criminals. That's the new vibe on the streets. Unless there's anybody with any questions, we've got documentation that we're leaving for you so that you speak from an informed decision. A copy of the shareholders agreement will also be mailed to you. Now that honorable, I'm pretty saying that's up.
You're still an honorable.
No, that's up. The honorable, not very. You're Sabhuku, not for now.
Yeah. Sabhuku, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, if they offered you the 1.5, would you have accepted it?
Yes, because the land value is 1.8 to 2 million. Yes, I would have taken that, and we are already doing that. But I realized, I think that they went too deep into these things to a point where they realized that if they had to spend that, they would sink. They went too deep into doing illegal things, and they thought that because my uncle is there, I would not report. You see? They thought that because my uncle is there, I will not report. But you see, and then they were comforted by that. So now that's why family members are calling them and said, no, but this is a Mungu. Mungu is a different entity from Didymus. He's a shareholder, I'm also a shareholder. It's a different entity. But if you go to Mungu, he's a director. So I think they were comforted by that with Iowa. That family Sekuru, and then Kanazaneta Sekuru. And that's what their thinking was. But now legally it does not work like that. I called for a meeting for us to regularize this. There are a lot of things as a director which were not in order. And I said, before we do anything, may we regularize all this. Even the shareholder who now is out and resigned as the director, there was supposed to be a meeting. That now that this person is resigned, what do we do? All that was not done.
Yeah, the reason why I asked was that with that, how would you then now deal with the issue of corrupt elements that I think you are so passionate about? Was that going to be stopped because you have received your 1.5?
No.
Still pursue it?
No, my thing 1.5, that's why I've got documentation. My 1.5 was based on regularizing everything first. So I'll give you that later. Call for a meeting, this and that, this and that. I have a list of things to be done. Once that is regularized and there's a resolution, then we move. I was never going to get the 1.5 because it would have been illegal without us regularizing it. So there is a letter which I'll give to you, which clearly outlined the measures to be taken. And as a direct shareholder, I'm entitled to calling for a meeting. So I push for that meeting. Because there's no ways anybody, and I would advise anybody would want to buy this company the way the governance issues. They're in a mess. But you regularize through a properly constituted meeting. Then we move to the next step. That's why even the other shareholder who got out, there was supposed to be a meeting. First right of refusal. That's the shareholders agreement. Before I dispose of my shares, first right of refusal to the other directors. It's not. So that was not done, but we sit down, we regularize it properly, and then it becomes a thing. So there was no ways the 1.5 was going to accept it without it had conditions that they had to also meet. First of all, we call for a proper meeting. And then resolutions of that meeting are what we move with. Even the application of a subdivision permit, we would have had it resolved. They went and got a subdivision permit fraudulently. We never had a meeting for it. So the meetings which they had were also fraudulent meetings where 2 directors are missing. There were 4 directors. One resigned, wrote a letter, they resigned. They were shareholders, they were giving their shareholders. Where is the 3rd one? Then you come up with so where's the letter that I resigned? And not only that, where are minutes which you then call to say this director has resigned, A, B, C, D, and so forth. So where are minutes which also talk to that? It was an afterthought. Most of the papers that they've come up with, unfortunately, will put them in trouble because it's an afterthought. And now they're coming up with these resolutions which do not make sense if you put 2 and 2 together. The right things have got to happen. I want to be part of a company which follows the law, which does follow the law. Yes.
In the prior, you said you are not exposed to any violence. So are you confirming that you're part of the complaint barrels? Since you said you don't export the barrel, and now you appear that you are involved in that company. So are you saying that you were part of the complaint barrels yourself?
I don't know how you would reach a conclusion that I'm a land baron when I'm here to complain that my land was stolen. I thought I was here to say my land was stolen by a land baron. I'm a 10% shareholder of land, and it's been sold by the land barons, the Borobondos, and so forth. Those are land barons. So I can't make sense of your question, unfortunately.
Sly Media TV, building bridges.